In this tutorial, I'll show you how to determine the real zeros of polynomial functions and their multiplicities. The question reads, find all the real zeros, determine the multiplicities of each zero, and decide whether the graph touches or crosses at each zero. To do this, you have to make sure that your polynomial is in factored form. Notice in our function we have one factor right here, another right here, and another right here. To determine the zeros, you have to set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So for this one, I'll set x equal to 0. That itself is one of the zeros of this polynomial. I'll do the same thing here. X squared minus 1 is equal to 0. Solving for x, I bring this over, and then I square root both sides like this, and I end up with plus minus 1. Finally, I'll set x minus 1 equal to 0, and bringing that 1 over, I end up with x is equal to 1. So I'll list my zeros. I had x is equal to 0, and that happened once. I also had x is equal to positive 1, and that happened twice. And at x is equal to negative 1, that happened once. Therefore, the multiplicity for this 0 is 1. The multiplicity for this 0 is 2 because it occurred twice. Finally, the multiplicity of this one is also 1. So that answers the first two questions of this problem. Now we have to decide whether the graph touches or crosses at each 0. To determine this, you have to look at these two features of polynomials. That is, if the multiplicity of the 0 is even and greater than 1, take for example at x is equal to 1, the multiplicity is 2, it's even, so at this point the graph touches the x-axis. So if we were to take a look at this function on a graph, when the graph is at x is equal to 1, there's only a touch at the x-axis. The second feature is that if the multiplicity is 1, if the multiplicity is 1 or more and odd, so that means these two, they're 1, they're also odd, then it crosses the x-axis. So to summarize, the graph must cross the x-axis when x is equal to 0 and when x is equal to negative 1, and must touch the x-axis at x is equal to positive 1. An illustration of the actual graph for this function is shown on your screen. And there you have it. That is how to determine the real zeros of a polynomial function and their multiplicities.